The year is 1947. The place is British India. The British Raj is coming to an end. And the question is, what happens next? This is a tale that has shaped the course of history. It's a story of how India was divided. Now let's go back to the beginning. For nearly 2 centuries, the British East India Company had ruled over the Indian subcontinent, exploiting its people and resources. By the late 19th century, they lost the power and the control to the crown. The British Raj began in 1858 and lasted until 1947. As the years passed, the desire for freedom from colonial rule grew louder. 2 major political parties emerged: the Indian National Congress, or Congress for short, and the All India Muslim League. Congress wanted an independent India free from British rule. The Muslim League wanted an independent state for Muslims where they would be the majority. In the beginning, the idea of partition or dividing India never really featured in the plans of either of these parties. Now, why did they want that? After all, India was a land where Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs had lived together for centuries. But by the early 20th century, communal tensions were rising. There were increasing fears among the Muslims that their interests would not be protected in a Hindu-dominated independent India. The British sensed an opportunity. They decided to exploit these differences to safeguard their own interests. In 1940, the British government announced the first official plan to partition India, the first such proposal ever. It was called the Mountbatten Plan, after Viceroy Lord Mountbatten, who was in charge of overseeing the transfer of power. The plan proposed the division of the country into 3 separate states: India, Pakistan, and a 3rd state in Assam. Now, this 3rd state was meant to include Muslim-majority areas like East Bengal and Assam, but the Muslim League rejected it. They wanted one state with contiguous boundaries. Their leader, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, wanted a state where Muslims could live according to Islamic laws. Jinnah said the proposed state would be called Pakistan, which is derived from the words Pakistan, which means pure land of Islam. The name stuck, and that's what it was officially called. Now, this proposal did not get anywhere. The Second World War was on, and there was no chance of independence. But in 1946, the British decided to advance the date. They needed someone to run independent India. The Crown appointed Lord Mountbatten as the last Viceroy of India. His job was to ensure a smooth transfer of power, and his solution was simple: divide and quit. On June 3, 1947, Mountbatten announced his plan. The Indian subcontinent would be divided along religious lines. Areas with a Muslim majority would join Pakistan, and those with a Hindu majority would join India. There was little time to implement the plan. People had to be consulted. Borders had to be drawn. Officials had to be briefed. Governments had to be set up. It all had to happen in less than 3 months. It was a Herculean task. The plan assumed that the people of India were willing to accept the division. But public opinion was divided. Many leaders opposed the plan, including some prominent members of the Congress, like Mahatma Gandhi. He felt the plan was a hasty one. Others, like Jawaharlal Nehru, felt the Congress should accept the plan. They realized that if they refused, there would be no independent India at all. On July 8th, the Indian leaders met in Delhi to discuss the plan. By then, the leaders of Pakistan had already accepted it. After much debate, the Congress Working Committee accepted the plan too. The Muslim League was notified. The next day, the Viceroy's plan was approved by the British government, and India and Pakistan were now going to become independent. The last Viceroy signed the documents of transfer of power on August 14, 1947. 2 days later, India became independent. On August 15th, Pakistan followed suit. The subcontinent had been divided. But what happened next would leave a lasting impact on both nations. Let's find out. We told you that the plan was based on the assumption that people would accept it. Well, they didn't. Millions of people refused to accept the new borders. Why? Because the borders cut across religious lines. The areas that were allocated to Pakistan had significant numbers of non-Muslim population, especially in Punjab and Bengal. Similarly, there were Muslim-dominated regions in what was going to be India, so people began migrating. By 1948, 14 million people had crossed the new borders. Today, that's the largest mass migration in human history. And it was triggered by religious persecution. In independent India, there were riots and massacres. Muslims were driven out of their homes. They fled to Pakistan. Punjab, entire villages were wiped out. Some 200 villages near the border were burnt down. In Bengal, the situation was no better. Calcutta alone, some 4,000 people lost their lives. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, there were fears that Hindus and Sikhs might take revenge for the atrocities against Muslims elsewhere. Many Muslims left their homes. They traveled to Pakistan with little more than the clothes on their back. Most walked. Many others took trains. These refugees carried tales of horror and loss. They traumatized entire communities. It was one of the darkest chapters in the history of humanity. In the end, who really benefited from it? Well, the British, it seems. By dividing India, they managed to escape any blame for the violence. They also ensured that the new states of India and Pakistan would need their help to set up their governments and their armies. The plan may have seemed simple to them, but its consequences were far from that. Today, India and Pakistan remain suspicious of each other. Their relationship remains tense. There have been wars, there have been border incursions. Terrorism continues to plague the region. Both countries have spent billions of dollars on their military. It's estimated that around 22,000 people have died because of cross-border conflicts. Thousands of families have been torn apart. Also, there are still people who refuse to accept the division. They continue to demand a united and independent Kashmir. And remember, the partition was not just about the division of the land. It was also about the division of people. Communities were split up. Families were split up. And even today, they remain separated. Like the people of Jammu and Kashmir, many others migrated to India and Pakistan. They hoped to return home someday, but they never did. There were refugee camps, there was mass suffering. So how did the two nations finally deal with this issue? After India and Pakistan gained independence, neither government wanted to acknowledge the existence of the other. India refused to use the word Pakistan. Instead, it referred to it as the quote-unquote other state. Pakistan refused to recognize Jammu and Kashmir as part of India, accused India of quote-unquote encroaching on Pakistani territory. The dispute was becoming increasingly complex. In 1948, India took the matter to the United Nations Security Council. The UN wanted a plebiscite to be held in Jammu and Kashmir. This was aimed at giving the people of the state the right to self-determination. In 1949, the UN adopted a resolution calling for a plebiscite, but Pakistan never agreed to it. India says Pakistan violated the UN resolutions. Pakistan says India never implemented the resolutions, and thus the matter remained unresolved. In 1953, Sheikh Abdullah, the popular leader of Kashmir, was released from prison. He played a key role in solving the issue. On July 1954, India and Pakistan signed an agreement. They agreed to resolve their differences peacefully. They also agreed to settle the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. The next year, Indian Parliament passed the State of Jammu and Kashmir Act. The state was reorganized. Its constitution was rewritten. A new flag was designed. It looked like this. It was an eclectic mix of the flags of India and Pakistan. But the people of Kashmir were not convinced. Many saw it as an Indian ploy to annex Kashmir. As the decades passed, cross-border terrorism increased. Militancy gripped the valley. And in 1988, things turned violent. Armed militants took up arms against the Indian security forces. Soon, the streets of Kashmir were littered with weapons. More than 100,000 people lost their lives in the conflict. Even today, militants hurl grenades. At security installations, there are targeted killings. Schools and colleges remain shut, and it's not just Kashmir. The whole of Jammu and Kashmir has suffered. Infrastructure has been destroyed. Tourism has vanished. Businesses have collapsed. It's a tragedy that's almost 35 years old, and it shows no signs of ending. Today, India and Pakistan remain nuclear-armed neighbors. They've fought 3 wars. They've launched covert operations. They've trained militants. Theirs is one of the most volatile relationships in the world today. And it all started with the Partition of India. The British Raj may have ended in 1947, but its impact continues to be felt even today. Millions of people continue to suffer because of the choices made by their leaders 7 decades ago. This is our news service. If you want to send us your feedback, you can do so at the email provided below.